Here's one thing I know for sure. Fox News, Donald Trump, and the Republicans, they care about fake news. And they are worried if anyone makes a mistake, they think it is monumentally important, they should be fired immediately. I know that partly because of what's happened over the weekend. So Dave Weigel, reporter for the Washington Post, tweeted a picture he shouldn't have tweeted. I'll give you the full context. First, let's go to the New York Times for the explanation. The reporter, they explained, Dave Weigel, posted a picture of an arena with many empty seats. He deleted the tweet after learning that the venue had not yet filled up. So that was a mistake that he made, and he has admitted to that mistake, and then he took down the tweet because he didn't want anyone to get the wrong impression. But Donald Trump was not satisfied. Let's go to his tweet on this issue. Now, he shows the one that Weigel tweeted in the up top there, where the stadium is not filled, and then the accurate pictures of the stadium actually filled during the event. Donald Trump is right about that, and Weigel knows that. In fact, Weigel knew about it before Trump even tweeted this, but Trump says, Weigel, Washington Post, put out a phony photo of an empty arena hours before I arrived at the venue with thousands of people outside on their way in. Real photos now shown as I spoke. Packed house, many people unable to get in. Demand apology and retraction from fake news Washington Post, okay? Well, no problem, because by the time he tweeted that, Dave Weigel, on his own account, had taken that down, and it was not part of any Washington Post article, so there was nothing for Washington Post to take down. But furthermore, he got the apology that he was looking for. And I think Weigel did the right thing here. And as frustrating as it is to apologize to Donald Trump, who's never apologized for a single thing he's ever done wrong, let alone the 800 lies that were documented by the New York Times in his first 6 months, but it doesn't matter. You still have to do the morally right thing, and I think Weigel did. And he said, it was a bad tweet on my personal account, not a story for the Washington Post. I deleted it after like 20 minutes. Very fair to call me out. And so that's basically his apology for the tweet and to President Trump. Now, if you ever give an inch to the right wing, are they satisfied? Never. They don't just want your apology, they want your head. They don't care if you're right or wrong anyway. It's just an opportunity for them. So then Trump tweets, well, Dave Weigel of the Washington Post just admitted that his picture was a fake fraud, question mark, showing an almost empty arena last night for my speech in Pensacola, when in fact, he knew the arena was packed, as shown also on TV. Fake news, he should be fired. Now, wait a minute. He took down the picture and the tweet well before you were calling for him to get fired, etc. So what else did you want him to do? And by the way, if he had intended it to be fake, why wouldn't he just leave it up? Why wouldn't the Washington Post then write a huge article about it and go, nobody came? Because I thought that's what they did with your inauguration. I thought that's what you charged them with doing it all the time. So if it was really fake, like fake and intended to be fake, as you charged in one of your tweets that I just read you, why not leave it up? Why not insist that it's true? Why ever do a correction? But it seems like that the mainstream media, and I believe that they have an inherent bias, an establishment bias, and I think if the right wing says they have a bias, I think that they're seeing it a little wrong in my opinion. If they think it's a liberal media, I think they're seeing it wrong. But I think it's perfectly fair for them to say there's a bias. I say there's a bias in the media. But if you say that they're making stuff up, why wouldn't they just continue to make it up? Why would they ever do a retraction? Why would they ever do a correction? Why did they suspend Brian Ross, ABC News? If the whole point is to make up stuff about Donald Trump, wouldn't they give Brian Ross a bonus? Wouldn't they say, Dave Weigel, great job on having the wrong picture up for a whole 20 minutes. Congratulations, you get a raise. Well, they haven't done any of that. They correct things immediately. You know why? Because they actually care about the truth. Now, they might not always get there, in my opinion, because of the bias they don't even realize they have. But are they all in a room making conspiracies against Donald Trump just to smear him and then write those articles and then never retract them? No, there is an organization that does that, but in favor of Donald Trump and against Democrats. That organization is called Fox News. Do they ever fire anyone? Do they ever suspend anyone? Do they ever do any of that stuff? Never. Just at the end of last week, we told you about the story of how Fox News said that one of Roy Moore's accusers had forged his signature in the yearbook. Well, it turns out she hadn't. She had added a note underneath Roy Moore's note, but Fox News ran the headline, forged. Later to their credit, they did an update and said, oh, okay, turns out it wasn't a forgery. She had just simply added a note. But the person who initially reported that, are they fired? Are they suspended? No, look, I'm not calling for that, but the right wing keeps calling for it every time it happens in the rest of the media. So why is Fox News immune from any of this? Because the reality is we expect them to make nonstop mistakes. We expect them to lie, to mislead their audience. That is part and parcel of what they do. In fact, they did it in this story. So the Washington Post never fired Dave Weigel, nor should they. But nonetheless, watch what happens on Fox News.
This machine operating in certain news outlets that, frankly, they identify themselves as part of the so-called resistance. They're the opposition, and they're getting tagged over and over and over again, pimping this fake news. And I think it's inexcusable.
You talk about this, and at least for one reporter, it turned out to be inexcusable because he doesn't have a job anymore, and that's from the Washington Post. He put up this tweet with a pretty sarcastic comment about where the president was giving his speech. He said, "packed to the rafters," in a picture that was taken long before the speech began. And then the president demanded an apology. He apologized, and now he since has left.
He has not left. He has not been fired. Fake news. That's what Fox News is. Fake news. I demand everybody be fired. That's anchor Leland Wittert. Luckily, I'd never seen him before. It's okay. I'm sure Fox News fired him immediately because they say, I mean, in that segment, they're talking about Weigel, needs to be fired. It has already been fired. I can't believe they did fake news like this. There's no accountability. I want every producer at Fox News that worked on that program to be fired. I want the executive producers fired. I want the editors fired. I want all the executives to be fired. That's how they react, right? No, the guy made a mistake. So he came on and he said this.
Want to correct a mistake from earlier. I misspoke when talking about the controversy surrounding Washington Post reporter Dave Weigel. While the president demanded on Twitter that Weigel be fired, he is still with the Washington Post. And I want with that to apologize for my mistake.
If I was the right wing, not good enough. Let's burn him at the stake, right? No, yeah, I got it. You made a mistake and you corrected it. That's what people who care about getting it right do. I'm surprised that Fox News bothered to correct that. If you remember, Bill O'Reilly had dozens of lies about his so-called reporting during the wars, far more egregious than Brian Williams. He had preposterous lies about his connection to the JFK killing and was never held accountable. Did all those sexual harassment, was never held accountable, only until after it became public. The number of times and the severity of his sexual harassment was Bill O'Reilly finally fired, but not for the lies. Not for the lies that he gave over and over and over again. And of course, on the story about the so-called forgery, Breitbart and all the conservative online organizations have never corrected their story because it's not their job to do the news, it's their job to do propaganda. So let's acknowledge that there's an enormous double standard, there's no question about it, and that there are never any consequences for any conservative that ever gets a story wrong, even if for some of them, they did it on purpose to mislead you and their audience and everyone else. So, and let's also acknowledge that yes, the mainstream media, when they get something wrong, they try to correct it. It is not an attempt to mislead. If it was, they just simply leave it up, and they don't. It gets exhausting battling their lies day after day after day. And then they have the audacity and turn around and talk about fake news. You got elected, President Trump, because of fake news. So don't pretend that you care about it when you revel in it. If you like this video, you'll love the whole TYT network. Check it out at tytnetwork.com/join.